Hello, this is Bobby at Copel TV Repair with some considerations and thoughts about replay. Along with that, actually, again, considerations, but for two different things. This is a board that was returned to us as a core for repair. And one of the first things that we noticed was that the diode that tends to go back here has been cut off and it's missing. This is how an original board looks like, and I will get shortly to that. This is one of ours. And when we turn on the back, there were signs of the repair. You can see where this was soldered. The AC was replaced clearly with signs, the usual Zener diode that goes on those. This is a family of boards, DPS 167, DP-1 and 146 that go in several different 46-inch and 50, 49, maybe 55. This is for M55 Visios. Anyhow, so we saw that the board was worked on, and we got back to the customer and we showed them the pictures and saw that board was, violates our terms and conditions. It was worked on, and therefore we cannot honor the price that was advertised for buying the old board back. This is the paper that we sent along with the board. There is an option on the bottom that says click to indicate you are aware that your board fails the stated requirements that has been without mechanical and chemical damages, no traces of tampering, repair attempts or modifications. So the customer didn't check that, and we got back to them and showed them what we see and asked them what they want to do. And there was messages going back and forth, customers saying that they weren't aware they bought the TV secondhand and until it stopped working. We saw there's no way with this diode missing that board hasn't been worked on after the TV stopped working. And this was actually our mistake, and personally my mistake, because I did not realize that somebody put in parallel a more powerful diode here. I'm just so used to replacing. This is how, again, the board looks like originally. Sorry. Where am I? Yeah, okay. So this is the diode. There is a place for a second one that usually goes in parallel, but it's OEM, they come without it. And very, very rarely I would see, and we don't do it either, I would see a second diode put here and the first one removed. It's not a bad solution, but I did miss that. What it means is I do owe apology to the customer for saying, I did not accuse them. I just said that there was no way this board was not worked on after it went out of the TV, before it came to us. That was incorrect. It didn't have to be worked on before if that diode was in place, and it was. And I'll go to explain why, and this goes into another level. Customer was not very happy and said that they think that us cutting half of that core value is not quite fair because it seems like a penalty for them, blah, blah, blah. And we said the terms are terms, and there's a reason for that. When people break those terms, we find out that it takes longer, costlier. This is explained why I have a number of videos talking about that. Basically, if a board comes that has been worked on, it ends up costing more to repair, and this is a perfect example, and that's why I'm doing this video in addition to apologizing to the customer. After spending time digging around, searching what the problem is, the board would come up. There will be no standby voltage on it, 0.5 volts at the cathode side of the rectifier, and then none of the usual suspects was working. And then I started thinking, the original diode that is here is for 2 amps, and it tends to go bad pretty often. This diode is for at least 3, possibly 4 amps. I did not check, but it's visibly larger, 3200. It's probably 3 amps. And provided everything else was fine, what I did is I got one of our boards and I took out the transformer and I swapped it, and this is the original one that came out of this board. My logic was, I've repaired so many of those boards. I have never seen anything else go bad on them, except in one case somebody by mistake had shorted manually something while testing, so of course a bunch of other damage. But out of about 100 or so repaired boards, I have never ever seen anything else. At least once I have seen a transformer fail as well. And in this case, my thinking was this diode goes bad very often. That means excessive current goes through it. It's not excessive voltage. This is 5 volts. This diode is at least 60, maybe 40 volts, way over the breakdown voltage for the diode. So it's not the voltage, it's the current that bothers it. And the replacement one here is definitely more powerful. And my thinking was, okay, if you replace a fuse in your breaker box, and your wires are rated for 20 amps, and you replace the fuse with one that is for 40 amps, what's going to happen? Well, the wires are going to melt. That's what's going to happen. And so I thought that maybe that's what happened, and let's give it a try instead of testing. I mean, I tested, there was no interruption of the windings. They were all there, but I couldn't know whether some of the insulation would have been burned. To do that, I had to take it out, test it separately for resistance and conductivity of each winding. It was easier to just replace it, and that's what I did. And guess what? It works. And the moral of the whole thing is yet another illustration of why we are not paying the $15, as I explained to the customer when they were unhappy about getting half. It seems too little for them, but it also seems too much for us, because one little thing, somebody who thought that they're doing better by putting a more powerful diode here. So now, because of the way the whole circuit was designed and under-designed, and the excessive current that is being pulled through that, instead of it failing, and this thing costs 5 cents to replace, this thing you cannot find anyone, or at least we couldn't. They are manufactured for Vizio or some small factory or somebody. We could not find a source for those transformers. The only way you can get one is from another board. So as far as we're concerned, this is total loss. And that is why we shouldn't be paying really half. That is too much. Customer wasn't happy. I'm going to send them that video. I don't know what they're going to say. I do apologize for saying that board must have been worked on for third and last time. I just missed the diode. But whoever did it, thinking that they're doing better, replacing one component with a more powerful component, ended up damaging something that price-wise it's not more expensive, and we just can't source it. We don't know where to go, and nobody would sell it to us. That's how OEMs work. They oftentimes hire small factories, somewhere local or something that manufactures a series of something. Of course, if we go to a specialist transformer builder, they can find out the windings, the ratio, the current, and they can build one for us. It's going to cost an arm and a leg, way above any practical sense, unless we do thousands of boards, and we don't. So again, a perfect example of several things. First, when you think that you're doing something better, you're not always doing so. Just by replacing something with something better, you may just be shifting a problem from one place to another, and the new place may actually be bigger damage than before. Number two, this should be number one, is there is a darn good reason for us not willing to pay the money that we advertise when we receive boards that were worked on. This was done with good intention. There was no foul play by the customer. There was no foul play by whoever replaced that board. They just didn't know. We could have made that mistake too. It just reminds me to think about actions and consequence when you do that. You're thinking that you're improving something. But at the end of the day, who's going to bear the cost of all that? Because the customer thinks that, they are not being treated fairly. Well, this is what it is. We are the ones that are not being treated fairly. So let's see what the customer thinks about the terms. Now we know for a fact. We didn't know before for a fact. Now we know, we have the knowledge that without this transformer, this is not going to be good. Of course, I'm not showing you any of that because it's going to take me forever to show you how it doesn't work with this one, but it works with that one. So for all that you know, I may be making all that up. Go check reviews online, see line of thinking, see feedback from other people, and decide for yourself whether I will be doing that for $15 or $30. I'm more of a sticking up for the right thing guy, whatever I believe is right thing, and defending it. But you make up your mind, and that's just a reminder. Thank you for watching.